Asato ma sadagamaya tamaso homaham jyotirgamaya mrityormam amritam gamaya ahavir maidhi Rudra yate dakshinam mukha te namaham paha inityam. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Reach us through and through ourselves, and evermore protect us from ignorance by thy sweet, compassionate face. So my subject this morning is, what is your philosophy? And if we were to ask this question of the man on the street, the ordinary common man, maybe he would reply, well, live and let live. What is your philosophy? Seize the day. Carpe diem. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. These are good bumper sticker slogans, but they're not really philosophy. Philosophy is all about an inquiry into first principles. It's about examining our core beliefs. A philosopher is one who asks age-old questions about reality and about the self in relation to the world. And maybe you can visualize a famous one of the Dutch masters, Rembrandt. Pictured an ancient bearded man seated there, looking out the window, and the whole of the stairs, it's the interior, is all shrouded in shadows and darkness. But the light streams through the window and illumines his face and hands. And it's a very thought-provoking picture. Invites us to contemplate and to ponder the mysteries of life. Now this morning we're talking about philosophy, East and West. We're going to begin with looking at a little bit on Western philosophy. So imagine one day you go out driving, you're driving along in the countryside, and you turn off the highway, go down along Entrance Avenue, and there before you, you see a grand and stately, impressive building. It is the mansion of philosophy. And well, it's surrounded all by, it's an estate. It's all surrounded by beautiful gardens and trees. The building itself is 2 stories with balconies and a veranda and many great windows with sunlight streaming in. It's built on a firm foundation. And the foundation is resting on the solid ground. And in that mansion, there lives the goddess of knowledge. Her name is Sophia. And philosophers from all parts of the world come to visit her and make inquiries and dialogue. And when they leave, they're inspired, enlightened. A traditional Western philosophy is usually discussed in the contents of they speak of, in a textbook anyhow, 5 branches of philosophy. This morning we're not going to use the metaphor of the tree and the branches, but rather we're going to look at more closely at the mansion and the different perspectives on the mansion. And we can begin with the building site itself. And this is the domain of metaphysics. We're standing on the ground. See, in each one of these domains, we're looking at 5 domains. Each one, we're going to be asked questions about life and about reality and about being. Now, since we're standing on the ground, it's obvious that our very first question would be, what is the ground of being? Being is the universal predicate. Everything in the world that we can conceive of that exists has being. And so we want to inquire into what it is. What is that universal substance that gives existence to everything in the world? What's the stuff out of which everything is made? Now, if you look at the pre-Socratic philosophers, we can take it as an example. The pre-Socratic philosophers, who Thales was his name, his answer to that question was, what is the substance of all things? He says it's water. And we may smile at that answer, but you have to remember, this is back at the very dawn of human civilization almost. Pre-Socratic Greek philosophy, they believed in the 5 elements, with which we're familiar. And isn't it reasonable to assume that out of those 5 elements, the most reasonable one to take priority would be water, because after all, water, when it's just seething out in a pond under the sun, it would become hot, and it would begin to steam. And when it gets cold, it would freeze, and it would become solid. So you've got solid, liquid, gas, water. And so like this, they began thinking in ancient times about what is that substance. Is it matter? Is it mind? Is it spirit? Is it one? Is it many? Is it unchanging and immutable? Or is it changing? These are the questions of metaphysics, the ground of philosophy. They naturally lead us into a second domain, because after all, once we arrive at certain truth claims, it's very natural for us to ask, how do you know? How do you know that what you believe is true? And this is the domain of epistemology. It's all about knowledge. How do we know anything? Can we know anything? What are the methods of knowledge? And all of us here are interested in knowledge because, after all, you're here. And this is the Vedanta society. And Vedanta means the knowledge society. This society is all about the quest for the ultimate knowledge. What is that, to quoting here from the Upanishads, what is that? Famous question. What is that? By knowing which all this becomes known. We can think about another great masterpiece that comes to mind by the Italian Renaissance painter Raphael. It's entitled The School of Athens. And there are pictures, it's a fresco, either coming down the stairs, or the stairs on the outside of the school. And they are pictured in the very center, is portrayed on the left as you look at it, is Plato. And Plato is standing with his one arm raised, pointing upwards, signifying his commitment to his theory and his doctrine of the universal forms. And standing next to him is the figure of Aristotle. His arm is extended outwards towards the world. He was the father of Western science, rationalism, and empiricism. And all around these two figures, there are many other, that is, mathematicians, other philosophers, and metaphysicians, and scientists of ancient times. Each one pictured in and of himself, like Pythagoras and Euclid. And when we look here at the painting, we can't help but be inspired by the spirit of the pursuit of higher learning, even in ancient times, and the importance of knowledge and wisdom. Now, as we move from this second domain, that is, this is the foundation of the house. Now we can naturally move from the foundation up into the main living quarters, the main living area. We call it like the first floor of the mansion. Big living rooms and the salons and the parlors. And this is the domain of ethics. Ethics is all about what is the practical application of our knowledge of the truth. Assuming we have some knowledge of the truth, what is its practical implications? Truth, the truth. Vedanta is big about the truth with a capital T. The truth is the good. And the good is that which is the most important thing. Because the good is that which gives us meaning and purpose in our life, which gives us an orientation of the goal and the direction of our life. And it is possessing the good, by possessing the good, is what gives us happiness. And so it's natural for us to ask, in this third area of the mansion, it's natural for us to ask, what is the good? What is good? What's the difference? What is good and evil? What is right and what is wrong? What are the values that reflect the good? And what are the personal virtues that we have to acquire in order to realize our values? And so these are the questions of the domain of ethics. How to live the good life. How to live in such a way that we attain to a kind of human flourishing, and we are enabled to realize and to actualize our full potential and realize our true nature. Now, this third area naturally leads us to the fourth. And we can see as we're moving along that this mansion is designed by an architect. It's not, it's all, that is, there's unity in diversity. One room, one part supports and leads to another. They're all the aspects, the parts and the rooms are connected. And they, as we walk through them, it's natural. Then we would walk up the stairs into that fourth domain. See, the ground floor. This is the place where philosophy is all about where people live. This is where the goddess lives. This mansion is not a hotel. This is not for passing travelers to come and on vacation for a few weeks. This is where we have to take up our residence. So as we move upward to the fourth domain, that is the domain of politics. It's an old Greek word. It's really about political theory, and it's not about partisan politics. It's about the theory of political life. And the idea is that we, just as our psyche is governed, that is in the rational psyche is governed by reason, reason over emotions and passions and the appetites, and there is a natural order and harmony. Similarly, as in the individual, so in the collective. A human being, the Greeks used to say, is a rational, a social animal. That is a rational social animal. And so that we live in society. We live with others. Wherever there's the self, there's the other. And therefore we have to look into the principles. That's why every schoolboy, well, that I remember, used to have to study in class Plato's Republic. And we would discuss it in class. And it's all about the theory of government. And in fact, metaphysics and theory of knowledge has a dramatic impact on shaping our ideas about governance and about equality and freedom and human rights and responsibilities. And above all, the theme of that famous the Republic is the question of this domain, that is, what is justice? This is political theory. Naturally, it moves us into the fifth domain of philosophy. It's about, that is to say, it is this fifth area which gives us a graphic, picture-perfect representation of our metaphysics. This is the domain of art, and that is of the fine arts, as of painting, and of music, and of literature. How crucial this is to philosophy, because metaphysics is, after all, and all of these questions are, after all, rather conceptual and abstract. We need something to help us to grasp and to wrap our brains around it. That is to say, we can't perceive them. We need something that will make these truths visible and tangible and inspirational. And that's the purpose of art, is to make the universal, which is eternal and beyond our perception, to make the universal particular, and to make the particular universal, so that we can grasp it, so that we can understand it. That's why we need. That's why in they say, well, one picture worth 1,000 words. Certainly in the mansion of philosophy, there are mirrors. Certainly the goddess loves to look at herself there in the mirror, to know her true nature. And that's the purpose of aesthetics. That's this fifth dimension. That is an inquiry into what are the principles of art. What is art? And how can we begin to learn how to refine our judgments? This is called in Sanskrit viveka. Discriminate. How can you become a man of discrimination, discriminating taste? And in order to have good taste in any field, we're not just in any domain, we have to have knowledge, we have to have understanding. And so this is the inquiry in aesthetics. Now these questions that have been raised in these 5 different domains, they're all, each one of them really is an age-old question. And all of us as human beings have been asking ourselves these questions, consciously or unconsciously, all of our life. That is to say, a person, that is a human being, is a thinking animal. That is, we think. We have a natural inquiry. Everybody is kind of like a natural curiosity and wonder, and to inquire into the nature of things and into the nature of ourself. And so each one of us, every human being in the world, has asked these questions, consciously or unconsciously. I framed them explicitly, but they don't have to be like that. And not only have we asked ourselves these questions, we, each and every one of us, have answered all of these questions for ourselves. That is, in the course of our lives, beginning in a very earliest childhood, we begin to have experiences, and from those experiences we get knowledge, and it all becomes part of the structure of our conceptual world. And so in this way, we begin to form, in our very early life, we begin to form a worldview. Basically, an answer to all of these questions, shaping our philosophy of life. So everybody has a philosophy of life. And not only that, not only do you have a philosophy already, but you are not an armchair philosopher. You're not a person who just thinks about stuff. Rather, you put your philosophy into action. And although you may think that, well, some things I believe in, I don't act on, I'm kind of a hypocrite. But no, you're not really a hypocrite, because those things you don't really believe in. The things you really believe in in your heart, those things you act upon. And those things you find expression in your life. And you know how it goes. Thought, feeling, speech, action. That's the progression. At the foundation, that is at the ground of our psyche, are our beliefs, our understanding of what is true and what is real. And upon this, upon our beliefs and our desires, that's our, we have our cognitive, then you have your affective. These are the three psychologists speak about: the cognitive, the affective, and the volitional aspects of our psyche. That is, we have our beliefs, and our belief naturally begins to form around the belief. There begins to form an aura of energy. That's the emotion. That's the feeling. The feeling then will prompt us. That's volition. That is affection. Then volition. It will prompt us naturally to speak and to act out what we have spoken of and what we have thought of. And so first we begin to think, and then we begin to express those thoughts. To think is just to speak low, then we speak out loud, then we begin to act. And so in this way, we can see the immense importance of the question, what is your philosophy? What are your foundational beliefs? What are your core beliefs? What are the first principles that govern your life? Because that is your life. That explains your whole life. What we have here is kind of considering that fact. If you accept that, you take that into your brain, process it, see if you believe that. But if you do, it's kind of a call to introspection. We begin to think that yes, that this is, in fact, this is what we're told here by the old Greek philosopher Socrates. He says the unexamined life is not worth living. Of course, he believed that the purpose of human life, the highest purpose, was to contemplate the universal forms in heaven. That was his idea. And well, when he says it's not worth living, he doesn't mean that it's not worth anything. But what he means is you're not really getting the full value of your human life unless you have done introspection. That is, you begin to examine the core beliefs. And as we begin to do it, that's Vedanta, invites us to begin that process. And as soon as we do so, we're going to find that it's a little depressing. Because we're going to find that as soon as we begin to examine, to make explicit those things which we've always assumed to be true, immediately we're going to find that many things were false. That we have a lot of false beliefs. And that our brain begin to discover that our mind is very compartmentalized, and that many of our beliefs and our feelings are existing in there's a kind of a cognitive dissonance going on. That is, there's a conflict between what's in one compartment and what's in another, but since everything is compartmentalized, we haven't really become conscious of the inner conflicts of our life. And of course, it's those inner conflicts which are the source of our frustration and our inner suffering. Many of our beliefs we'll find we've just kind of picked up along the way in our life. We've never really thought about them or analyzed them or justified them. We've just assumed it's conventional wisdom, so we've thrown that into the bag. And that's become part of our worldview. And I'm reminded of that, I like to refer to that old country song, Johnny Cash, where he was working in so the song says a man is working there in the automobile factory, but he's just on the assembly line. He wishes that he could have a new car, but he can't afford it. So he gets a bright idea one day. He's going to smuggle out parts of the car in his lunchbox. And so like that, one day he takes a few parts of the carburetor, another day a headlight or tail light. And after 20 years, he retires. And he has all the parts. And he puts all those parts together. And that's the refrain of the song. I got it one piece at a time, and it didn't cost me a dime. You'll know me when I go through your town. So we can imagine this car driving with all these different models, all pieced together, thrown together. What a sight it would be. This is our worldview. This is how we formed our worldview. And when we begin to think about our mansion of philosophy, that is our inner conceptual life, then we'll see it doesn't really, it's really, well, it seems to be kind of a rickety old mansion. It seems to be like there's no light coming in the windows. There's no, it's built on a foundation there of shifting sands. Foundations may be missing walls. And the worst part of it maybe is the floor plan, the construction of the whole thing, because as you go go in the front door, maybe you run into a solid wall. And you're looking around, you're baffled, you turn, you walk around the wall, and there's the living room, but in the middle of the living room is the bathroom. And you have no privacy. And you think, what? What kind of house is this? Well, you walk upstairs. Where's the kitchen? That's upstairs. You go upstairs, you have to go down these long, winding corridors. Everything is dark, one room to another. You can't find your way. Oh, you would think it'd be very frustrating to live in this house. It's a house of poor design. And this is our psyche. This is our old worldview. This is our old philosophy. It hasn't served us very well because, after all, we're still not fulfilled. We're still not happy. What we need is a new philosophy. What we need is a new worldview. And for that, we can turn our attention to the light of the wisdom of the East. So now let's look here at Eastern philosophy. The word for philosophy in Sanskrit is called, what we call philosophy, is darshana. Darshana just means a seeing. And just as you know, the tradition, if you go on pilgrimage and you want to go to the temple, and your goal is that in the temple there is the deity. And the goal of your pilgrimage is to go in the temple and to see the deity. That's darshan. And when you see it, of course, if you're a good pilgrim, it's not just seeing with the eyes, the physical eyes. Rather, you feel a connection. You feel a kind of an awakening of spiritual grace. It's a gracious experience. It's like it's supposed to be. That's the darshan. You're having the darshan of the deity. And so you're in the right frame of mind. You're making a deep connection with a higher reality. And this is the goal and purpose of philosophy, is to connect with reality, the higher reality. Now, in ancient times, the saints and the seers, they were called rishis, who had the revelations of higher truth. They taught their disciples, and their teachings were passed down in the lineage. And as time passed, their teachings were interpreted in different ways. And in the course of history, they're involved in India 6 systems of Indian philosophy. The 6th system is called Vedanta. And it's made up of 3 kind of schools of philosophy called dualism, qualified non-dualism, or monism, and non-dualism. And all of these systems of philosophy form a kind of a stairway to heaven. That is, it's a hierarchy. There's a pluralism of views, but the views are in a graded hierarchy. Now, all of these systems, even though they're very radically different in some ways, but in other ways, they share very common views. All of them believe in the soul, in the ultimate, in God, in the ultimate reality, Brahman, the God of this world. Words that we're acquainted with by students of Vedanta philosophy, words like karma and the doctrine of cycles, and all these views are all shared by all these 6 systems of philosophy. And the goal of all of them is darshana, that is, to realize the truth and to experience the ultimate nature of the ultimate truth for ourselves. So it's here that we can begin to see some of the distinctive features of Indian philosophy. This is a holistic worldview. That is, if you go to a Western university, you know that, well, you'll find one building is for science, another building is psychology, another building may be comparative religions, and another is humanities and philosophy. They're all different. They don't communicate one with the other. But in ancient times, these were all different aspects of the same thing. And that when you study science, you're studying the psychology, and you're studying your own psychology. You're studying philosophy and religion. And in fact, historically, if we look at the development of these different systems of thought, we see that along with these systems of thought in ancient India, there also developed systems of spiritual practice. They're called yoga. There are many different kinds of yoga, but yoga just means a method or a way or technique of realizing the truth, the things that you've taken to be true and that you know to be true. And that is, there was always, in ancient times, there was always a correspondence between theory and practice, 2 sides of the same coin, between science and applied science, technology, between philosophy and religion. Now, that being the case, we may ask ourselves, when our interest is in the Vedanta philosophy, and we're students of, we may ask, is this Vedanta a philosophy or is it a religion? And the answer to that question is, well, it's like a philosophy because it uses all the techniques of philosophical, we understand, in Western philosophy, of rational inquiry, and of the importance of reason. But it's unlike Western philosophy in that it requires that we have a moral and ethical foundation before we can begin to study that. And not only that, it holds out for us an ideal of enlightenment and realization, which is the result of that. So it begins and ends a little differently from Western philosophy. So it's like, but it's not like. It's like a religion because religion just means legare, that just means yoking up or connecting again with the source of reality, the source of truth. So in that sense, in the etymological sense of religion, yes, of course, it's a religion. That's what yoga means. It's just the mystical heart of religion. So in that sense, it is a religion, but in another sense, that is in the common conventional meaning of the word religion, that is as a sectarian, the particular one of the particular world religions, institutionalized, organized system of beliefs and rites and rituals, having a founder, having a personal God, and having a sacred book. All of these are not necessarily part of this Vedanta philosophy. So it's like a religion, but it's not really a religion. Really, it is unique. We could maybe call it a spiritual philosophy. Now, if we look here at Eastern and Western, we can see it's two different ways of doing, two different ways of inquiring into the truths of reality. Most of Western philosophy derives from Platonic rationalism. That means the primacy of reason for is the means, and is the ultimate test of truth. And we can visualize ourselves maybe in a dialogue with Socrates on the streets of Athens, and he asks us a question, and we then give our answer. And by the time the dialogue is finished, we realize that we didn't really understand anything at all. And we've kind of got a whole new perspective on our understanding of what is the truth. That is, Western philosophy is discursive. It's a discourse. It's a conversation. It can be contrasted with a different way of doing, which comes from the East. Eastern philosophy is all about enlightenment and about realization. And a philosopher is someone who is like a sage. He's kind of considered to be someone like Lord Buddha, kind of like a doctor of the soul. And students come who are suffering in the world and who are making these inquiries and are baffled and confused about their lives. They go to the doctor, and the doctor gives them medicine. And then the student takes if he takes the medicine, then he'll be cured of his illness. And so it's kind of a different model of how to do philosophy. Now you may say, all of this sounds very metaphysical and conceptual and cerebral and otherworldly, and I would rather spend my time and focus my attention on concrete, realistic, everyday, existential problems. That may be your objection. And the answer, of course, is that, well, that's the whole of philosophy, is addressing existential problems. That is, the problems of being human, the problems that really matter to us. That is, core issues like identity, like authenticity, like the meaning of life, like dealing with inner emptiness, existential angst, and with mortality. For dealing with all of these issues, what we need to have, we need wisdom. And philosophy is the love of wisdom, the pursuit of wisdom. Wisdom means that we have the ability, we have a depth of insight into ourselves, an insight into the nature of the world that actually helps us to navigate the ups and downs of life. That's wisdom. And so that's our goal, is to pursue the wisdom. And this is why it's important for us not to come back to the value of philosophy. It's important for us not to discount the significance of our inquiry. Sir Francis Bacon, who was the founder of in the Western history, he's the founder of the scientific method, 17th century. He once said that this is kind of like at the dawn of the age of reason and enlightenment. He once said that a little philosophy inclineth the mind to atheism, but depth in philosophy inclines the mind to religion. Certainly there's a lot of truth in that, because we've heard people who have a little acquaintance with the philosophy and who may define it as a route of many roads leading from nowhere to nothing. That would be one perspective. May define a philosopher as a blind man in a dark room looking for a black cat that isn't there. But when we have depth in philosophy and a deeper inquiry into ourselves, then we will discover for ourselves that the man is not blind. That's ourself. We're not blind. We have reason. We have our inner light. We have a conscience. We have an inner guide. And we're not in a dark room. The room is filled with saints and sages who have gone before us, inquiry, and who've brought light and understanding before us. And the cat, as for the cat, it's not black. Black here means like dark matter. It means you can't know it. You can't understand what it is. Truth, that we can know the truth. We can understand it, and we can know the truth for ourselves. This is the teaching of ancient wisdom. And the cat is there. There means, yes, it exists. The truth, with a capital T, exists. That means, how do you know it exists? Well, it can be discovered. It can be realized. And that is the goal of our spiritual life.
Hello and welcome to Trabuco Monastery. Swami Vedarupananda ji. Thank you for your words of wisdom and insight. And if you have a question or a comment, there'll be time, maybe half an hour for Q&A in our adjoining library. And that'll happen when I put this down. So he will he'll walk by and you can greet him too. So just wait for Swami a moment, and he'll greet you if you like, if you have time. Speaking of time, there's the Shrine Trail. It's a beautiful day today. I don't know if you have time, as I said, but you're welcome. We're open until 1:45. Monastery closes the gates by 2. So until then, please enjoy the temple and the company of the Swami here and each other. And next Sunday, Swami Sarvadevananda, who most of you know, will be giving his monthly talk and discourse on Kali the Mother. Kali the Mother. And that's next Sunday. And actually, Kali the Mother is tonight, if you want to know insight. It's Divine Worship tonight in Hollywood. Starts at 10 p.m. and goes till 3 a.m. So I don't want to encourage that unless you have the day off, like Monday. And, okay. I couldn't even find the driver to take me there. So I'm here tonight. But you're welcome to go to Hollywood. Yeah. And otherwise, just come next Sunday at 11 a.m. and join us again. And when he's here, we also do the potluck. He's the head of our mission in Southern California, of our centers. And so we have a potluck and welcome him. Many of his students bring a dish for offering, like whatever you're good cooking before Thanksgiving. Yeah, I'm just rambling, but you can practice Thanksgiving dinners and try it on the monastery. Yeah. And also a salad that's more your style, or dessert, or both. And please join us. That's we start around 1:15 next Sunday. And before that, we have the Wednesday class, a meeting with the Trabuco brothers, Wednesday night. And we have the Arati in the temple at 6:30 p.m. and gates will open at 6. And then at 7:30 is our class in the library again. And that's the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6. So please join us, and we'll be happy to see you again soon. So until then, please enjoy the rest of the week and the end of the week. And I'll see you soon, hopefully.
Om Dyo Shanti Antariksha Shanti Prithivi Shanti Apa Shanti O Shadaya Shantihi Vanaspataya Shantihi Vishwe Deva Shantihi Brahma Shantihi Saravam Shantihi Shantireva Shantihi Same Shantiredhi Om Shantihi 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 Om. Peace is in heaven, peace is on the earth, peace is in the sky and in the waters. The herbs and plants and trees are full of peace. The gods are peaceful. May this eternal universal peace enter our souls and beings. Om. Peace, peace, peace be unto us all. Join us in the library if you have some.